Welcome back to Gamecasters, everyone. Today I'm going to be doing a review on Risk of Rain 2, a roguelike action game. Um, or I guess I should say third-person shooter, because that's more like what it is. Um, so Risk of Rain 2 is one of these games that has an endless mode to it. You can endlessly just keep going and see how far you can get, but at the end of the day, once you die or you beat it, you get reset back to the beginning. Now, to some people that might not be a fun experience, but weirdly enough, sometimes these games have a pull to them with that style of play. It's kind of like playing zombies in Call of Duty. Like, no matter what, you know every time you die that you're gonna have to start over the next time you play, but it's fun to do. And with Risk of Rain 2, you have different classes you can unlock. Different characters, I should say, and each one has its own abilities. You can change the loadout on it. You unlock different abilities by doing specific tasks for those characters, and the skills again they change depending on which one you have. Each one has its own loadout. You can also have artifacts active. There's difficulty modifiers. Um, Personally, I'm going to be playing on Drizzle for the sake of this review. Um, Normally, I'm playing on Rainstorm or Monsoon if I'm feeling extra spicy, and typically I'm doing Monsoon if I'm playing with other people. Co-op is another feature of this game. You can play multiplayer with I think up to 4 people, and essentially, when you're running a game on here, you have a choice at certain points. Once you find a thing called a primordial gate, you can take that one to fight the final boss, and that's what will end it. However, if you do not wish to do that, you can just choose to ignore it and keep surviving. Now, as you're running through the worlds you go into, they're like procedurally, I think they're procedurally generated. I could be wrong. I know there's different world types, and then the loot that's in them is procedurally generated. Uh, your gun has infinite fire, but the loot chests that you'll find in the world will give you modifiers to your gun and to your stats and your abilities. There's a lot of cool things that can come out of these as soon as I find one. Actually, there's one right here. So while you're killing enemies in the worlds you go through, you'll get money, and then you use that money to open these chests. And these chests will have modifiers in them that you can use to upgrade. And you can infinitely stack most of these modifiers. So every time you run through, you're basically creating a different build for yourself, which is what keeps things fresh. I personally, I think this is a lot of the reason why I keep coming back to Risk of Rain 2, is because even though like it's an endless adventure, or it can be an endless adventure, there's different ways you can run it. You can see what kind of builds work best in certain situations. Now, obviously, there's a little bit more strategy to building your character out if you're playing on higher difficulties. There are obvious things you should go for sooner than others, assuming you get them. Again, it's up to RNG on what you'll get out of those chests. Also, that actually was not a loot chest that I picked up. That is a med droid. So while I'm running around, that thing will heal me, which is great. You can actually stack those, and you can get what are they? Turret drones that will shoot enemies while you're running through. Now, these things can get destroyed. For the fact that I'm on Drizzle difficulty, though, it's very unlikely that it will, but... So, that loot chest I just opened gave me an artifact called Monster Tooth. So every time I kill an enemy, they'll drop health for me, which is actually really useful. That's one of the better ones to have on Monsoon, because every time you get a kill, you're also healing. Now, a lot of these chests will give you a random piece, and then there's some of them that will let you choose. Not all of them, but if you're lucky enough, you'll find the ones that'll let you pick what you want out of it, rather than leaving it up to chance. Now, if I remember correctly, I don't think you can what is it? I don't think you can pick any item out of it unless you activate a modifier. There's a modifier for the games that makes it so every time you open a chest, you can pick pick whatever you want out of it. But if you're playing bare bones worlds, then it'll be random with a lot of the chests. There's also 3D printers, so whatever item you have, or items you have, you can actually take one that you don't want, put it through the 3D printer, and it will re-roll that item for you for a cost. Every time you do this, it does cost, so it's not a way you can cheat your way through and just keep rolling until you get what you want, unless you have endless amounts of money, which late game is a possibility, but generally by that point, you've already got so much gear stacked up and how you want it to be. It's going to be one or two pieces of gear you're going to be re-rolling. It's not going to be your whole build. Let's see if I can find... Okay, here's the teleporter. So, once you find the teleporter in the world you're in, when you activate it, it'll spawn like bosses and a bunch of enemies that you'll have to fight off while charging the teleporter to leave the zone. And if you look in the top right, there is... I keep walking the cryo things. If you look in the top right, there is a timer going. So the longer I'm in here, the harder it gets, which incentivizes you to keep moving through worlds as fast as possible, because the longer you stay in one world, you're eventually going to run out of things to loot. Each zone has a set amount of loot boxes that you can find, and those are what keep increasing your power to be able to defeat enemies. Now, you can also take that as a challenge and see how long you can stay in a single area and see how hard it can get and, you know, do it bare bones, but that's a whole other playstyle. So, I think it's about, what is it, on Drizzle, about 20 minutes into this zone is when it'll start going up to normal, and the difficulty just keeps going. Personally, I don't think I've actually seen it go to an infinite difficulty. I may not be that good to have seen that, but I've definitely seen it get really far. I completely missed that shot. Okay, so this is one of the bosses. These bosses can be different. They can be a lot more of a pain than others. And in my experience, a lot of these bosses, the ads are so annoying while you're trying to fight them, because generally I can stay in the teleporter circle while fighting, but these ads like to stack while you're fighting. Thankfully, I've got this healing drone right here keeping me alive, so again, that's where a lot of the gear comes in. The better the gear you have, the faster this will go, and the better off you'll be. And another thing is, as long as you are charging this teleporter, these enemies will keep spawning in. They do not stop. However, it's a really great way to get money built up for the next world. And also, bosses do drop loot. That was actually one of the items I just picked up off one of them. You can get red items, which are a lot more rare than like your common. Like, there is a rarity system to the loot that you get. There's whites, greens, blues, golds, and reds, I believe, if I remember correctly. But yeah, in totality, Risk of Rain 2 is one of those games where it's a challenge. It keeps you going, and you just push yourself to see how far you can go. Like I said, it's very zombies-esque, to reference kind of like a style of game mode. I know Call of Duty wasn't the first one to come up with a roguelike mode, but I figure that's the one that will relate with most people as to what the style of gameplay is. Almost everyone's heard of Call of Duty Zombies, so. Well, I think that covers everything to do with Risk of Rain 2. There are, I don't really have much bad to say about it, honestly. I mean, the beginning of the matches are slow. Like, these beginning areas will be a little bit of a drag just because, you know, you're starting off and you don't really have a lot of gear yet. So it's not going to throw a whole lot at you. But eventually, when you do start getting to the end, or not the end per se, like the final bosses, and the further you get in, the more intense it gets. Like, you're going to be constantly just jumping around, shooting stuff, trying to find gear, moving to the next world as fast as possible, and just the pace picks up the further you go, which is really nice because you can kind of go at your own pace in each one of these zones. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been a Gamecaster review on Risk of Rain 2. If you're watching this one, I know it's been a long time. My content has been spacey a lot. Work's been pretty busy. Life's been pretty crazy. Not to get into all that, but again, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully I can bring you more content, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.